Before I begin, I want to draw attention to the warning at the beginning of this video. That is not a hook or a gimmick. The information in this video is dangerous. In this series, I will endeavor to explain one of the biggest lies foisted on the public. Nuclear bombs are not what you've been told they are. I understand this might sound implausible to you. I had the very same thought when first exposed to this information. Allow me to explain. Crawford Sams, who ran the Atomic Bomb Casualty Commission in Japan, had this to say about the bombing of Hiroshima.
So, the object of this instruction, called letter instruction, was you will play up the devastating effect of the atomic bomb, right? So, I was the one who set the deadline on this kind of thing. Anybody who'd been in Hiroshima and died within 6 months, or got run over by a bicycle or whatnot, would be credited to the atomic bomb. You see, it wasn't being like putting in a publicity, a bomb went off and the city disappeared. No such thing happened. That was the propaganda for deterrence. I believe politically, if you can deter a war, for God's sake, let's do it. And blow up this effects all you want. But don't believe your own propaganda if you are applying it to your military planning and...
Again, Crawford Sams was a brigadier general with the U.S. Army, and he ran the Atomic Bomb Casualty Commission in Japan. In this interview, he claims the modern conception of an atomic bomb being a city-annihilating weapon is pure propaganda. So if an atomic bomb didn't destroy Hiroshima, what did? The answer is, it was firebombed into oblivion, just like Tokyo was. Let's compare images from the two events. Here is Hiroshima after the supposed nuclear bomb was dropped. And here is Tokyo after being firebombed. They look pretty much the same, don't they? Let's take a step back and look at some of the inconsistencies with the modern conception of the atomic bomb. Here's a graphic showing how powerful they claim the bomb that dropped on Hiroshima was. It was greater than the explosive load carried by 2,000 B-29 superfortresses. More powerful than all the bombs carried by 2,000 of these massive planes. Forget what you've been told is true your whole life and just think about it. Does that not seem a little ridiculous? If you don't think these numbers are absurd, let's fast forward just 16 years. That tiny little smudge on the left is the bomb that supposedly destroyed Hiroshima. In 1961, Russia developed and tested the Tsar Bomba. The Tsar Bomba had an explosive yield greater than that of the Hiroshima bomb by a factor of 3,500. So, officially, the Tsar Bomba's power was greater than the load carried by 7 million superfortresses. One single bomb more powerful than 7 million of these fully loaded planes. Don't these numbers seem a little off to you? The Russian military has lost over 100 nukes that can fit inside a suitcase. Numerous terrorist groups would eagerly seize an opportunity to possess such a bomb. It wouldn't be particularly difficult to smuggle something the size of a suitcase into the country. Every day, an estimated 73,000 shipping containers enter the United States alone, yet none have ever been detonated. This is just a brief overview of the flaws in the story. I could make a very lengthy video with all the evidence of fakery, but that's not why I'm here. I promise to show you the truth behind the lies. So first we have to ask, why lie? Well, one reason Crawford Sams pointed out earlier is that it was a deterrent. Why would you mess with a country that could wipe you off the face of the earth with a couple bombs? But there is another, more esoteric answer. It ties into the two things I introduced you to in my first video: symbolic comms and blackmail. If you haven't seen that video yet, go watch it now. We will be building off of concepts from it. So, if nuclear weapons aren't bombs, what are they? Here is the nuclear symbol. Does it look like anything else to you? It's a film reel. In my first video, I claimed that most celebrities and politicians are controlled by blackmail. That is what nukes often symbolize: blackmail. Sexual blackmail, often involving children, like the videos recorded by Jeffrey Epstein. What was the name of the first nuke dropped on Japan? Little Boy. Dropped by the Enola Gay. This is why they call it nuclear fallout. They're talking about the fallout of hideous crimes by famous and powerful figures being made public. You don't have to take my word for it. I will show you. On August 10th, 2019, Jeffrey Epstein, a man widely believed to be a CIA blackmailer, died. The day before, Russia had a nuclear accident. On September 27th, 2017, Hugh Hefner, a man widely believed to be a CIA blackmailer, died. The day before, Russia had a nuclear accident. Both men were blackmailers, and both died exactly one day after a Russian nuclear accident. That's either one heck of a coincidence, or there is a connection between nuclear weapons and blackmail. Can we find any other coincidences that tie nukes to sex? Did you know the uranium in the first nuclear weapons had to be lubricated with sperm whale oil? No other oil would do, only sperm. On July 1st, 1946, the first post-war nuclear detonation took place on Bikini Atoll. 4 days later, on July 5th, the Bikini swimsuit was unveiled, officially named after the nuclear tests. At the time, the swimsuit was considered so obscene that they struggled to find a model to wear it and had to hire a stripper. It was eventually normalized by Hollywood and Playboy. Speaking of Playboy, did you know Hugh Hefner worked for the Army before starting Playboy? Before changing the name to Playboy, he was going to call his magazine Stag Party. Is there perhaps anything related to nukes, the Army, and stags? The Army created the first self-sustaining nuclear chain reaction at Stag Field in Chicago. Hugh Hefner was living in Chicago at the time. This reactor was called CP-1. What else does CP commonly stand for? An artist named Virgil Parch was featured in the very first Playboy. Virgil also happened to work for the Army. Here are his cartoons from the magazine. Themes of a hotel, spying, and sex. These are jokes about creating blackmail. That very same artist also made a Disney cartoon called Duck Pimples. cartoon about being terrified after hearing scary news on the radio. This cartoon released on August 10th, 1945, the day after the second atomic bomb was dropped on Japan. This was as the world first heard the scary news of nuclear weapons on the radio. Disney was officially working with the Army on military propaganda. It's quite a coincidence that they would randomly make a cartoon about scary radio news at the exact time their employer, the Army, unleashed their greatest spectacle, which just so happened to be scary radio news. How many coincidences before something is mathematically impossible? Let's keep going. On October 8th, 1957, the UK had its worst nuclear accident, caused by heating up too fast. That very same day, Jerry Lee Lewis recorded Great Balls of Fire with a man named Stokes, as in Stokes of Fire. 2 months later, Jerry Lee Lewis starred in the movie Jamboree, which features the song Great Balls of Fire. A few days after that, he married a 13-year-old girl. They use math from Einstein's theory of relativity to justify the absurd power of nukes. What did Einstein have to say about relativity? Put your hand on a stove for a minute, and it seems like an hour. Sit with a pretty girl for an hour, and it seems like a minute. That's relativity. Relativity is being with a pretty girl. A joke, sure, but a winking one about the truth of it all. Let's revisit Hugh Hefner and Jeffrey Epstein. We already went over the nigh impossible coincidence tying their deaths to nuclear accidents in Russia. What are the odds something like that happened twice? Remember, Jeffrey Epstein was reported dead on August 10th, 2019. America conducted its 5th nationwide emergency alert test only 3 days earlier. Hugh Hefner died on September 27th, 2017. That very same day, America conducted its 3rd nationwide emergency alert test. What might the comm of a national emergency alert be? Maybe a warning something bad could happen in the near future due to current events, like, for example, a sudden change to a kingpin of blackmail? So did something happen? The Las Vegas massacre took place 4 days later, the worst mass shooting in American history. Might mass murders be something powerful people unleash? That's a topic for another video. How many coincidences before something is mathematically impossible? I think we've already reached that point. This is a 2-part series on nuclear weapon comms. In the second video, I will be explaining what events the atomic bombings in Japan actually refer to. If you like this content and want to learn more about comms, subscribe.